Hi, I'm Captain Mike. I thought I'd take a few minutes off from stacking lumber this morning and do this video that I've been putting off for quite a while. It's really not a difficult video. It's just sort of something that I had an idea about and I haven't tested it well. So y'all bear with me. I think some of it is going to work out really good. Some of it is problematic. But we are going to see how it works out. Now, what I'm talking about is filling voids in wood with something other than epoxy. Now, I have successfully filled all kinds of voids with epoxy, and this has got a couple of different colors in it, and it works really good on stuff like this as long as it's dry. The wood that you're going to be working with needs to be dry because you're going to get shrinkage. Now, not so much on this as you would on, say, something like this. These little things right here is actually what got me started on this video. I turned about 4 of these at one time out of green limbs. That's what that is. That's just a limb, and I put it on a lathe and I turned it down and then I drilled a hole in it, and when I first did them they didn't have a crack in them and they were really nice. Now, this is not my idea. I saw a video on YouTube of a guy who did this, and he actually sells these things with a disclaimer, little tag that's on these. He does beautiful work, and he says, hey, these things, if they don't have a crack in them now, they're going to have a crack in them because I turn them out of green wood. And the crack is part of the character of the vase. And that's what he says. He said, if you don't want a crack, go look somewhere else for something. These are going to crack. Sure enough, they cracked. Yeah, you see. You'll see the crack real good. Crack. Every one of them cracked. It's fine. Well, my daughter brought hers back. I gave her one. She brought it back after a while and said, Daddy, can you do something about that crack? I'd like to have it filled in. Well, I let it simmer for a while until one night in a stupor of some sort before I went to sleep, I have these revelations. I said, gee, auto bondo might work. Can't use epoxy because of the curvature. You put epoxy on, it's going to run all over the place. You can't take forever to build up enough epoxy to make this work. You needed something that was putty-like. So I put Bondo in it and let it sit for a while. And here's what happens with something that is dimensionally unstable. And this is one of the things about this video that, I'm just going to tell you to take it with a grain of salt, give it a try, and see what you have. You can see what happened. It worked out absolutely beautiful, but after a while, the wood separated a little bit more. Now, in Georgia, where the humidity changes, the temperature changes, whether you have something, in this case, inside my shop, which is has a heat pump, it pulls a lot of moisture. Things are going to shrink in the summer when there's a lot of humidity. They close back up. In the summer, this would probably close back up. But if you didn't want to wait and you have that little nasty little crack right there, you can just go back and proceed and redo the process I'm fixing to explain to you about, using Bondo, auto body filler in these cracks. Now, we'll start from the beginning on this. All I had when I started this project was some regular old run-of-the-mill Bondo, okay? And you can buy it at Walmart, you can buy it anywhere. And I've used literally a ton of this stuff. I've been using it for years and years and years, did body work, did all kinds of things. On metal, it works great on metal. It works on fiberglass. I've worked on boats with it. And the issue with this is it is kind of a gray color. Okay, that's how it comes out of the can, already colored. And then on top of that, the hardener is kind of colored red. You can get it green, you can get it all kinds of colors. What I had was red. So I mixed it up, and it doesn't take much of this, by the way. And it made it that green kind of, that's the way it kind of come out, that color. Not objectionable, but I had no control over the color I was looking for. So I decided that I would order some white Bondo. So I did. We'll get here. This is what I ordered, okay? And it comes with some kind of greenish bluish hardener. That's what color it's going to make it. Real close to what I showed you. However, I went ahead and ordered some white hardener. So this should be white. And I can color it however I want to. And we're going to color this in a couple of different ways. We're going to color it with some powders, like I do resin, and we're going to color it with some dyes, like I do resin. And we're going to see how this works out. Now, in addition to this, we are going to try to do something a little bit more liquid, but it will work on these charcuterie boards and things that are flat. Won't work so much on this, but it will work on the flat parts. And that is, we're going to use some resin, fiberglass resin. And I'm going to try to color it. It is an amber color. The hardener is clear. So we're going to put a little bit of this red in the amber and just see if we can't punch the color up a little bit. And we're going to see what we get. Now, you're asking yourself, well, what are you going to put it in? We're going to put it in a couple of things. I have a piece of cedar here with a real gnarly hole in it, and we're going to fill it. Nah, let's go with the resin on this, because the fiberglass resin, because it'll probably go good with the cedar. The next thing we're going to use is a piece of walnut that also has a hole. And I will take, off camera, some 100 mile an hour tape, and I will seal up the bottoms of these so the resin won't come through. And well, I'll do it on the cedar. On this one, I still will put the 100 mile an hour tape, but the putty will just go, I push it down in there. So the thing that you're going to have to be aware of when you start this project is it does not take any time for the Bondo to set up. It will set up on you while you're working with it. You have a little bit more time with the resin, okay? And we will mix it up, and I'll do that on camera, and we'll pour it in there and kind of get an idea of a time stamp on this thing. And because I've never done that before on this. I only did this little experiment right here. So that's what we're going to try. And all of this is to replace using the resin that I use, like these, which I can't use on these things, okay? So we got two things going on here, and let me prep this stuff, and we'll get started mixing all this good stuff. All right, I have all of my tools together. I hope I have things that I'm going to spread this Bondo with, and we are going to use the Bondo first. And I have the bottoms taped up really good. I was going to change over and put the resin in this one because actually the void shoots underneath here, but I'm going to try packing it. Because this really is just to see how the surface is going to look when I get it done. I'm not really worried about the bottom. So that's what we're going to do first, and we're going to add this pigment, this colored powdered pigment. Now, I've already run into a problem. I ordered white. I didn't get white. I didn't look at it when it came in, and it's already gone past time to return it. Cost me more to return it than it's worth. It doesn't say anywhere on here that it's white, but I ordered white. That's what I was after, and it is gray. So we're going to see what happens whenever I put the white hardener, cream hardener, into this stuff, and the color, just see how it comes out. But I know you can get this in white, and I am going to get some white. But that's what we're going to do first. So I have this piece of glass that I'm going to mix it up in. And I like to use glass to mix up this hardener. It doesn't stick very well. You take a razor blade and scrape it off when you're through. And we're going to try to get all of this off the top. And if you fool with auto hardener enough, you know that they give you instructions on how much, like 2% by weight, supposedly hardener you use, blah, 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 blah. But temperature's got a lot to do with how fast it sets up. And I just kind of guesstimate at what we're going to do. And I may have to mix this up twice. So first thing we're going to do is put the coloring in it. Let me go ahead and move the camera down so that you can see what I'm doing, okay? Hopefully this will be close enough. We'll see. Now the first thing I'm going to do is add some color to it. Again, I've never done this before. Maybe liquid would work better. I don't know. We're going to use this powder. And I'm going to use about that much, okay? Just going to dump it on there. In this case, it doesn't matter. I have all the time in the world to work. I can mix all I want because the fun doesn't start until we put the cream hardener in it. And when that happens, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, you better be ready to go. You all that's ever worked with body filler, you know what I'm talking about. And you probably laughing at me right now, and you have all kinds of suggestions. And as you know, I like suggestions. Well, this is turning into a right nice color of kind of fuchsia, purple, pink, whatever. I don't know. We're going to mix it up real good here. Now it's time to add the hardener. And we're going to fudge. We're just going to put hardener on it. We're going to put, they say to put a line down the middle like this. And I know that's a gracious plenty. It's about 73 degrees in my shop right now. So we're going to see what happens. The time starts now. It's 11:52 on my digital clock. And I may have to do this a couple of times. It may harden up so fast with me that I cannot do it. Don't really know. Let's talk less and stir more. That ought to be enough. It's going to be enough. All right, we're going to cram as much of this in this hole as we possibly can before it starts to harden on us. And as I said before, I may have to come back and mix up a little bit more because I don't know what the how much volume is in this void. Just really don't have an idea. Looks like I am going to have to mix up a little bit more, and that's okay. We can do that. We can even do that off camera. Also got a little booger right down here. So I always mix this stuff up, and I didn't even have it on the camera, and I'm sorry. So let's go ahead and clean as much of this off as we can, so we don't have too much of a mess to clean up. And it took me about a couple of minutes to put that in there. So we are going to go ahead and I'll mix up some more off camera, and then I will kind of keep an idea with the clock about how long it takes for this stuff to start hardening, and we'll come back to you. It took about 4 minutes for this to start to set up. It's still kind of soft, and it may take a while for it to really get hard enough, to work, but it started to set up in about 4 minutes. So you have at least that much time, maybe 3 minutes, to get it into the voids that you wish to get it into. And I've mixed up some more, and we're going to slop it on there liberally. I mixed up too much this time, but that's okay. Most people do mix up too much, and it's not expensive, so it is okay. It'll be okay. And I can kinda, oh, I don't know, smooth it out a little bit, you know, but I'm gonna run this back through the planer whenever I get ready to do something with it, just to see what I got. And you have to be careful, or when you start to straighten it out like I just did, you will dip it. And it may shrink a little. I can't remember. I know there's not a lot of shrinkage because in the auto body business, you can't have a lot of shrinkage. So there we go. We're going to leave this on this pallet so that we can see how long it takes to get hard. So we're going to set that aside, and we're going to get ready to mix up the resin. Now let me mention right now that there is some odor. There's more odor to the fiberglass resin than there is to the Bondo. Just be aware of that. I don't find that it's a bad odor, but then I've been working with it for years. I kind of like the smell of it, but you might have a reaction to it. So work in a well ventilated place, and you probably ought to wear gloves. I don't wear gloves for anything, okay? But that's just me. You may have sensitive hands. You may not want your hands to look like mine. So there you go. We're going to set all this aside, and we are going to get ready to pour the resin into this. So I'm going to go ahead and mix up the resin and the color and come back and pour it in. Well, I took a little time to go eat some lunch and go get Roxy from the groomer. So it's been, it's 1:16 now. I won't do the math. It's been a little over an hour. And the Bondo has dried pretty hard. And so we'll come back to it. It's pretty hard. We'll come back to it in a little bit. I'll run it through the planer and see what we got on this little right here. And in the meantime, we're going to go ahead and pour some resin, fiberglass resin, in this piece of cedar. I may not have enough here. I mixed up 2 ounces, and according to the directions on the can, which I mutilated pretty good. This is an old can of Bondo. I've had it for years. I mutilated it pretty good trying to get the top off of it. Maybe the last time I use it. It says 10 drops per ounce, so we're going to put 20 drops in there when I get around to it. First thing we're going to do is we're going to put some resin, listen to me, some dye in here, and I'm just going to be liberal with it. And let me get a stick. This one ought to do. This is a good reason not to throw your cottage cheese cups away. I use these for a lot of different things. And so we are going to mix fiberglass resin up in it this time. Looks like it's turning it pretty red. You can see that, okay. Mixed it up real good. Now we're going to put 10 drops. It says it takes about, you got 7 to 10 minutes to work with this stuff. We'll see. So let me count them out. Alright, that's 20 drops. The time it started, the clock is running. So let me stir it up a little. That ought to be good enough. So let's see how far off we are. I expect this stuff to seep in every little crack and crevice everywhere. And I'll help it along a little bit. I want to heap it up because like a regular resin, it sometimes settles into the cracks and you end up with a dip in it. Of course, I'm going to plane this too. But we poured this at 120, and we just go ahead and put the rest of it in here, and we're going to see how that sets up. And while we're doing that, off camera, I will mix up a little bit more Bondo, and I will fill in a little teeny tiny crack there just to see how that does on a second application of this. So let's set this set up. I will go plane this and bring it back so that we can talk about that whenever this here sets up. Okay? Well, I'm back, and actually it's the next day at about 10 o'clock in the morning. I run into a little problem with my resin experiment, the fiberglass, Bondo fiberglass resin. This was old, and the liquid hardener that I used was old. I had like 3 little containers of it laying around, and being the frugal self that I am, I tried to use the tube with the least in it first and use all this stuff up. Sometimes that's a bad idea. This stuff had been around for years, and predictably, you would think by now, knowing me, it was bad. But there were several things to consider, like I put colorant in that. So I said, first thing come to mind was, well, the colorant affected the fiberglass. So I mixed up some more and put it in another piece. And, well, actually, the first thing that I thought about, let's back up here. The first thing I thought about was that the hardener was bad. So I mixed up some more, and I used the newest hardener that I had, which was old also. And it took, at the end of the day when I went home, this stuff still had not cured. But in the meantime, because I was scratching my head, I went ahead and mixed up some without color in it, but using the same hardener, and it also had not started to cure. So I deduced that the hardener was bad, and the hardener is nothing but methyl ketone peroxide. It's a chemical you can buy at Walmart, actually, and it's just a hardener. You can mix it with fiberglass. I was going to buy some of that today, but when I came in and checked everything, this actually had hardened, at least the top. I don't know what's going to happen when I plane it. That had hardened finally, and that had hardened. Let's get it over here. That had hardened. But this one was still gooey gummy. You can look, it's just running everywhere. It's not doing nothing. This is a total bust. So this piece we won't get to see what happens because I'm going to have to just throw it away. But we can see what we can do with this piece. So with all that said, when you're running an experiment, use reasonably fresh materials, and then you won't be a dummy like me. So let me go plane this, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to kind of conclude this experiment. Here is what we have using Bondo, automotive Bondo body filler, and fiberglass resin. And they both work, at least initially. The resin, which is really not what I started this video to do, came out pretty good. These cracks here have to do with the wood and not so much the resin. Had I had a better or newer resin to work with, there would have been no cracks here. But as you can see, this right here looks pretty good. It colored up and everything. So there is a possibility there. I'm going to leave just a little bit of work for you all to do. And on this one, again, it worked out really good. So far, no shrinkage. You patched up the holes. You can manipulate the colors. Now, the only thing left to do is to see what happens if you put polyurethane finish on top of these, or maybe in some case you pour a coat of epoxy over them, which I'm not going to do. I'm going to use my old standby polyacrylic. I use it on just about everything. But what I want to show you is how it changes the color, if any. I'm sure it will. So we'll dip our little cheap brush in it, and we will go over half of it, and we'll let it sit for a minute for the air bubbles to get out of. And we're going to do the same thing with the resin. We're just going to paint a little bit of it. It changes the wood. And because I had to go grab another piece of cedar, the other cedar was all heartwood, and I unloaded half a truckload of scrap cedar out there to try to find one that had a void in it, so I could pour the resin in it. And it took a while, and all I could find was this piece with a lot of white sapwood. But normally I'd put a couple of coats, but here we have the difference. That's what will happen if you put polyurethane or something. It's going to change the color to make it a little deeper, more vibrant. And normally this would dry, I would steel wool it or sand it lightly with 320, 400, and I put another coat or two. And it's the same with this. You can see what we got here. You know, I'll get it over here in the picture eventually, folks. But you can kind of see what we have. And you can fill holes with fiberglass resin, the old Bondo fiberglass resin, or whatever brand you choose to use. I think this is still good. I'm just going to get some more NEKP and try to fix it. And even if you don't have white Bondo filler, whatever, you can still color it to some degree, probably enough to get by. It's just going to be opaque, not going to be translucent like with epoxies, which gives you that wonderful, wonderful. Of course, this is somewhat opaque too because I use some different powdered colorants in it, but I have some that just look, in fact, there's some of the blue in this is transparent. So it's what you experiment with. This, just like life, is a journey. And just like life, sometimes you get a bump in the road. So, folks, that's really all I can tell you about right now. Tell me what you think. My last video, and I asked for opinions on treating plaster castings so that they would not crumble when placed outside in our wonderful acid rain weather. And I got some great results. And you know, they have suggestions here too. Give them to me. I just thought I'd throw this out here as an experiment in progress and see how it turned out, because I'll probably use this in the future for some things. I can run down to Walmart and buy Bondo, and I don't have to worry about getting it through the mail. We will carry on with this experiment a little bit further and see if once I fill up the second cracks that have developed, it stabilizes it. Don't know. We'll find out. Something you can do. Okay, folks. appreciate y'all sticking with me this far, if you have, and I hope you've learned something. I have, and we will continue to explore these various paths of enlightenment. So there you go, folks. Appreciate y'all watching. This is my video. I'm Captain Mike, and I'm out of here.